Alfred Webre is a futurist and author of Exopolitics, Politics, Government, and Law in the Universe. This book founded the field of exopolitics. Alfred is also a journalist whose Examiner.com articles on multiverse research and cooperation are widely read in North America. He is the founder of Exopolitics.com, a leading exopolitical news website, and he is host of ExopoliticsTV.com, a magazine format public affairs program on exopolitical relations. Alfred is also chairman of the Mars Anomaly Research Society, which is spearheading the international effort to research, disclose, and educate the public about life on Mars. Alfred's original research and broadcasting on banning space-based weapons and environmental war can be found at peaceinspace.org. One word, peaceinspace.org. The Space Preservation Treaty that Alfred co-authored is designed to transform the war economy into a sustainable, cooperative space exploration economy. Alfred is a graduate of Yale University and Yale Law School in international law and was a Fulbright Scholar in international economics integration in Uruguay. He has taught economics at Yale University and constitutional law at University of Texas. Alfred was general counsel to the New York City Environmental Protection Administration, a futurist at Stanford Research Institution, an NGO delegate of the United Nations and the Unispace Conference, and is a judge on the Kuala Lumpur War Crimes Tribunal. I give you the esteemed Alfred Webre.
Okay, well, yeah, thank you very much. I chose for my topic today a very specific topic that grows out of a book that I wrote and published in it came out in 1974, called The Age of Cataclysm, and that was one of the first books to integrate modern geology and seismology with psychic prediction and the biblical prophecies. And that led to a whole bunch of books like We Are the Earthquake Generation, and books like that that predicted a whole set of maps with the California coastline being, way in at Nevada, and all of these things. They all sprang for this book. And in 1990, I updated that book to a new book called Earth Changes, A Spiritual Approach, which you can all get free online. Just Google Earth Changes, A Spiritual Approach. And what the book shows is that basically the secret government, the shadow government, or the occupiers of the planet, they're about, really at the top echelon, there are about 2,000 of them, as compared to about almost 7 billion of us now, are actually carrying out a scenario. I know this is going to sound strange, that's based on my book, The Age of Cataclysm. That's the script that they're using, of Fukushima, etc. So they're trying to carry off a great earth changes, end of times scenario, but it's a psyops. It's a giant psychological operation. And, even to carry out what I call the Isaiah earthquake. Is anybody familiar with the Isaiah earthquake? Remember that prediction in Isaiah? And the earth shook like a drunkard, boom. And right before the recent Fukushima earthquake, the seismographs were all going off, and we now traced it to one of the 17 HAARP facilities around the planet, namely Gakona, Alaska. So you can thank the U.S. Navy for the Fukushima false flag operation. We'll cover that in here. There's 60 slides here. The purpose here is really to expose this PSYOPs, which is ongoing now, and to show you the mechanisms and to show you some specific things that we can do to stop it. We were commenting that we're here just a few blocks from the great landmarks of the founding of the United States. The Constitution was signed just a few blocks from here, and a number of us took the intention today, and I'd like to ask all of us to join in that intention to have this conference become the relaunching of the Constitution of the United States, so that we can take back our country by 2016, if not before. And I say 2016 because we know from a lot of astrological information, from some time travel information, that there's good reason to believe that there'll be a great transformation in this nation. And so let's have it trace part of the conscious decision of the people to take back the Constitution to this meeting here. And I dedicate this presentation to that intention. Thank you. So as I said, there's 60 slides, so we're going to go at a fairly fast clip. I'll be here for the rest of the weekend, so if anybody would like some specific information, please let me know. Next slide. What is HAARP? Well, HAARP is an aerosol. What is the HAARP aerosol chemicals plasma weapon system? We'll be covering that. This is a picture of part of the planetary aerosol HAARP system. There's 17 locations of this technology, stationary locations of this technology, which is actually run not by any single nation, but what we call an international war crimes racketeering organization. We use that term, it's a legal term, which means they can be prosecuted under RICO laws, and that'd be roughly the 1,000 or 2,000 people of what we call the secret government. What are the HAARP chemtrails applications, especially mind control? Chemtrails is primarily a mind control agent. How can we, the people, stop the HAARP chemtrails weapons system assault? Next slide. First of all, you'll see in the series of next 6 photographs a progression of chemtrails. This was taken by Clifford Carnicom in 1999. The covert spraying of chemtrails into the atmosphere has actually transformed the Earth's atmosphere into a plasma for carrying out weaponized applications such as biowarfare, including Morgellons disease, electromagnetic operations such as HAARP, weather warfare, tectonic earthquake warfare, mind control, advanced surveillance technology, and the detection of advanced propulsion technology, including UFOs. So the principal function of the chemtrails has been to transform our atmosphere into a plasma, and the HAARP is a plasma frequency weapon. Next slide. The overall purpose, in the view of leading scientists such as Clifford Carnicom, is absolute control of the global human population, and these are through the combined effects of 7 weapons-like applications on the environment, the biosphere, and the human population. According to the most recent report, the vitality and viability of human existence and life on this planet, as has been known to exist, is under threat. You can see the chemtrails from the first photo starting to spread. Next slide. The 7 applications, all of which constitute war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide under the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court and the Geneva Convention, as we mentioned, include biological operations, military operations, next slide, electromagnetic operations, including mass mind control, environmental modification, and weather wars, which are a violation of the 1978 Treaty Against Modification of the Environment. This is a key point. That treaty was introduced by the United States at about the very time that Russia and the United States introduced HARP, its joint secret project. Next slide. The geophysical operations, including tectonic warfare, an advanced surveillance system capable of covert surveillance of the entire human population. The atmosphere and the plasma, together with HARP, can survey all of us. And UFO detection. Next slide. HARP itself is an exotic weapon system that's part of the weaponization of space. It is the negative application of Tesla technologies. And 2 or more ultra-low frequency waves are aimed at an intersecting point using this plasma, so it can be used in multiple ways, either to affect climate systems, weather systems, to affect tectonic systems, to use as a plasma for the transmission of software into your dreams or into your cognitive system, into your limbic system of your brain that regulates your moods. Next slide. HARP has 3 major components: a space-based, an air-based, and a ground-based component. The space-based component weaponizes the Earth's ionosphere, which is the uppermost part of the atmosphere. And it focuses and heats the ionosphere, and these waves then bounce back into the atmosphere as a plasma and reach all of the Earth, but also can be highly targeted and highly focused. Next slide. It's a steerable and focused electromagnetic beam. It's an advanced model of an ionosphere heater, and there we have an image of the Earth, the troposphere, and finally the ionosphere is the layer between outer space and the troposphere. Next slide. So you're actually making Earth into the ultimate weapon of war. This is a planet killer. This is a planet killer. We have now become, you remember Star Wars? We have now become a death planet, a Death Star. The atmosphere-based component. The air-based component of HARP is created by atmosphere spraying, which transforms the atmosphere into a plasma. These are the chemtrails. And the chemtrails, this plasma is a plasma weapons carrier medium and a force multiplier for the space-based component. And it's also a bioweapons and a mind control weapon system against the human population. We'll see how the toxic metals component in chemtrails are actually a bioweapon against the human organism, causing a large array of fatal and crippling diseases, but also a large array of mind control conditions. Next slide. There's a ground-based component, and this is why HARP is the invisible weapon, because the ground stations are camouflaged as research stations. Remember how the concentration camps in World War II were Arbeit macht frei, work makes you free, and they had a clock there that was kind of, you know, they are camouflaged as research conditions, So it's just, no one knows, now we're a bit more sophisticated because we can spot which HARP station is causing which earthquake. And, we can spread the information around on the internet. And HARP maintains an active disinformation program and says that it's mainly an academic project with the goal of changing the ionosphere to improve communications or to turn it into a military antenna for the defense of the common weal. Next slide. We now have more sophisticated ground-based components. This is a U.S. Navy seaborne HARP. So they're even more sophisticated, and they're airborne and they're landborne HARP units as well. Next slide. Now, what's in these? What is in the chemtrails, the aerosol sprays that we see? How many people in the room, please raise your hand if you've seen chemtrails? So 100% of the people, just about, 99.9%. Okay, this is from a study on May 1st, 2008, conducted in Phoenix by Ted Twitmeyer. It's a very good study. The barium in this chemtrails study is 278 times the toxic limit. The copper is 98 times. The manganese is, and we'll see the effects that manganese has. And you'll see why it's a mind control weapon. The manganese is a staggering 5,820 times the toxic limit, and the zinc is 593 times the toxic limit. Next slide. Again, this is from the in the HARP patent report, so that you can see that it's hidden in plain sight. It has also been proposed to release large clouds of barium into the magnetosphere so that photoionization will increase the cloud plasma density, thereby producing electron precipitation through enhanced Whistler mode interaction. So that's all hidden in plain sight in the HARP patent application. Yeah. You'll have to look it up. I don't technically I don't know what that means. Next. This is measured from samples of air under that actually reach, not at the level of the aircraft. Yeah. Cadmium is 126 times the limit, chromium 282, nickel 169. The permissible amount of cadmium in the environment is equivalent to 10 parts per billion. Next slide. Aluminum. 6,400 times the toxic limit. Iron, 28,000 times the toxic limit. Magnesium, potassium, sodium. Okay, next slide. Okay, HARP and mind control. HARP chemtrails combination primary use is for mood and mind control of the human population at a regional, national, and global level. The goal of this HARP engendered mood and mind control is the entrainment of the human brain and mind into acceptance of reduced civil liberties, economic prosperity, democratic prerogatives in the service of an anti-democratic global banking and political elite, namely the shadow government, namely the New World Order, namely the reduction of the population down to, some figures are 500 million. Next slide. HARP and mind control. The HARP atmosphere plasma weapon system and aerosol spraying are carrying out mind control against the human population. These operations include biological operations and electromagnetic operations. And these constitute war crimes. This is what an indictment would look like. And why don't we have an indictment? Well, that's a good question that we'll get to toward the end of the presentation. Next slide. According to, now, you can say, well, why do you call it mind control? Well, let's look at the definition of mind control. The term mind control has been applied to any tacit, tactic, psychological or otherwise, which can be seen as subverting an individual's sense of control over their own thinking, behavior, emotions, or decision-making. By this definition, a powerful global covert mind control program is being carried out against global, national, and regional populations as well as individuals through the biological operations of chemtrails, global aerosol sprayings. The spraying populations contain the following amounts of toxic chemicals. The effect of these toxic chemicals on the mental, psychological, and emotional functioning of the target human population is to, quote, subvert the individual's sense of control over their own thinking, behavior, emotions, or decision-making. In other words, all we have to do is look at the properties of what's in chemtrails and look at what the effects are clinically on the individuals, and that is mind control. That's some of the photographs taken by Will Thomas, who's a chemtrail activist over Vancouver, BC. Next slide. These are some other figures. This is 2010, just to show you that these figures are from Clifford Carnicom's study in 2010 of antimony, arsenic, iron, and manganese. Aluminum, 15.8. It's a bit more conservative. Antimony, 63.3. Arsenic, 418. Barium, 5.3. Cadmium, 6. Chromium, 6.4. Copper, 9. Iron, 43.5. Lead, 15.7. Manganese, 513.8. Nickel and zinc. Next slide. Okay. Breathing, the global aerosol spraying has transformed the atmosphere into a plasma. This is the atmosphere that the human population breathes. Breathing this plasma with the above toxic concentrations of chemtrails has been shown to lead to the following behavioral abnormalities that subvert the individual's sense of control over their thinking, behavior, emotions, or decision-making, and hence it's a mind control program. The following mind control impacts are drawn from the study of Dr. Ilya Sandra Perlingeri's Carnicom Institute, February 2011, preliminary report on the impacts of covert aerosol spraying as a bioweapons program. In other words, this is a very fresh report. It's February 3rd, 2011. Number 1, hallucinations, forgetfulness, schizophrenia, dullness, headaches and insomnia, languor, sleepiness, weakness, emotional disturbances. Did somebody mention forgetfulness? Has anybody been bothered by forgetfulness lately? Dr. Ilya Sandra Perlingeri asked, how many people who have caused public disturbances and or have behavioral outbursts are actually suffering from environmental chemical brain injury due to poisoning from heavy metals or other toxic chemicals, but are being treated like criminals? I encounter people all the time in my daily work that have a lot of problems around forgetfulness. Clerks that I'm dealing with, people on the street, myself, people that in my life, and this is because we're breathing in a toxic plasma. We are under a planetary bioweapons attack. That's a good question. And guess which congressman was on the House Aviation Committee in charge of chemtrails and would not meet with any chemtrails activists during from the year 2000 forward? No. Representative Dennis Kucinich. Yeah. Unmask. Unmask. Can you feature that? Are you ready to accept the truth? No? No way? Way. We introduced the Space Preservation Act, H.R. 2977, it's a matter of public record, in October of 2001. And that banned chemtrails and HAARP specifically. And it was up there for a month before Representative Kucinich and his staff withdrew it. And that, for the last 10 years, has been the death knell to the entire anti-HAARP and anti-chemtrails movement. And I just want to say that's the truth. Next slide. It is well known that aluminum causes cognitive impairment and brain damage. It takes years for this damage to become evident. During this time, it works its slow but insidious destruction to the brain. But even in the beginning, muddled thinking is noticeable. Why are so many people acting odd? Many more people appear to have a very short fuse. This is a scientist talking. You can go to carnicom.com and read this study. You can go to exopolitics.com and read my article which references this study. How many people do you know, do you encounter every day that have muddled thinking? Why do our children have an epidemic of autism, ADD, ADHD? Why are so many of our young children on long-term prescription drugs for behavioral and cognitive troubles? Why are millions of adults on years of antidepressant drugs? In other words, we're living in a plasma of biowarfare. Now, I'm a reporter with Examiner.com. That's a major newspaper. I'm one of the most widely read Examiner.com reporters. In January of 2011, I had 400,000 readers. That's the highest read political reporter on Examiner.com. That's higher than anybody who reports on Obama or anybody else. I have written 5 articles on the subject of chemtrails, HAARP, and tectonic warfare. Do you know that none of those 5 articles are carried on my Examiner.com webpage? You can go there now. That's how censored the system is. And I've written to Examiner.com after each article. I've written to my editor. That's how censored the information is. That's how censored it is. I'm telling you. Next slide. The 4 impacts of chemtrails are attention span, forgetfulness, short-term memory, and impatience. How many people have a problem, or how many people do you know that have a problem with attention span, forgetfulness, short-term memory, and impatience? 4 things are very obvious. I'm just quoting from a scientist. Human attention span has dropped dramatically. This is Will Thomas, a photograph of chemtrails over South Wales, United Kingdom. This is worldwide. People are very forgetful. Short-term memory has been affected. Far too many people are impatient and have very short fuses. These are the cognitive results and cognitive impact of taking in these toxic metals at these levels. This is an intentional genocide. For many people, thinking and thought processes are very difficult to contemplate or even discuss. No one wants to be told she is not thinking clearly. Next slide. Moreover, the HAARP chemtrails engendered mood and mind control is supplemented for targeted applications via mind control software operated through the Gwen towers, police antennas, cell phone towers, cell phones, computers, and other personal devices. They can even transmit mind control software through the electrical outlets. And I heard a presentation by a former DoD scientist in Brisbane, Australia, who used to write the programs that are programmed into your dreams. I call them dream warfare, or into your conscious minds. And this is done 24/7. This is how we are programmed. Next slide. Where are the chemtrails aircraft based? Edwards Air Force Base, Naval Air Stations, Nellis Air Force Base, Tucker, Plattsburgh Air Force Base, Andrews, Hickam, Kirkland, Langley. The flights originating out of Langley are for experimental soups and for laying in on the tri-state area around DC, Peterson Air Force Base. The NSA is a large component in this program. Next slide. HAARP and mind control. The NSA can remotely track people if they know the specific EMF waves, evoked potentials from EEGs in the 30 to 50 hertz, 5 milliwatt range of a person's bioelectric field. Each person's emissions are unique, just like their fingerprint, palm print, and their voice bail. This means that the NSA can remotely track anyone in public. And, you know, NSA's R&M system can remotely send EMF brain stimulation signals which create visual images, subliminal audios that appear to be audible sounds and thoughts into people's minds. In other words, voice to skull. So be very careful about the voices you hear in your mind. You know, just does it come from source or not? You know, and people who are, you know, who regularly engage in meditation where we're accessing upper dimensional, it is genuine. But they can teleguide people very easily, and they do so in a lot of these assassinations, like the recent Phoenix assassination, MKUltra assassinations. Next slide. The NSA has a monopoly on monitoring evoked potentials emitted by people's brains, which are in the electromagnetic of 30 to 50 hertz, 5 milliwatt range. When a person thinks or moves their body or sees something, the brain creates an evoked potential or set of evoked potentials. There's actually technology, reported technology, for example, in the airports now, that monitors your thoughts. So I believe that one does not even have to articulate thoughts. So think high thoughts as you're walking through TSA controlled areas. Just concentrate on divine light is sound advice. I would say as an immigration lawyer. Next slide. Naval intelligence and other groups have conducted research into ELF waves. You can put a person to sleep, make a person tired or depressed, create a feeling of fear, create a zombie state, a violent state, sexual aggression, change cellular chemistry, change hormone levels, inhibit or enhance RNA processes, control DNA transaction, control biological spin, proton coupling in DNA, RNA processes. Next slide. In ELF, waves at 6 cycles, below 6 cycles per second, cause subjects to become emotionally upset, and this rate may also disrupt bodily functions. At 8.2 cycles per second, the person gets an elevated high, such as would be accomplished by a master of meditation. 11 to 3 cycles per second would cause the brain to become agitated. ELF waves could be directed at a population to help incite riots. There were some disturbances in Seattle, Washington, just prior to an earthquake thought to be a HAARP-engendered earthquake, and there were kind of riots going on, and it was thought that they were HAARP-engendered riots. So that the whole, oh, they're rioting in the streets. Oh, they're rioting in the Middle East. That Egyptian revolution, yeah! It kind of has a different frame on it, doesn't it? Next slide. Now, HAARP is also, and this is where it becomes insidious, where this goes back to what we can call interference with the Starseed Project, and none of this is not entirely clear, but there are various factions of interdimensionals that have been competing for our control of our community of souls and kind of our DNA. And originally we were created as 12-strand DNA under a Starseed Project, and okay, this is information that comes from various sources. Take it sort of, it's like a narrative, a possible narrative. The parties that have taken us down to a 2-strand DNA that we're now moving up, those of us who are here in this room, we're really trying, are moving up from a 2-strand to 3-strand. We're getting that 3rd strand in motion, and apparently goes in triads, and then we'll go up to the 6th strand. And we can do this at the individual level, and meanwhile the crystal kids are coming in with 12 strands, like dancing in, because we're early indigos. But this is spiritual warfare that's going on, because the secret government and the 4th dimensional creatures that are manipulating them are, the real purpose of HAARP is to interfere with our connections with Source. So it's all part of spiritual warfare. We've just been looking at it at the 3D source of interfering with our bodies and our brains. Now we'll look at it, how it interferes with spirit. And this is a graphic, if you look at Dr. Carl Johan Kalaman and his analysis of what the portal the interdimensional portal at the core of our universe. We don't know, science now knows that we live in a multiverse, but we don't know how many universes there are in our multiverse. We know that there are many parallel universes. And the interdimensional portal at our universe is now broadcasting waves, consciousness waves of unity consciousness. And that's mediated through the interdimensional portal of our galaxy, which is the galactic black hole that the Mayans called Unabku. And we all have access to that. And that is really the motor that is driving our starseed project here on the planet. And it is this starseed project and the arrival of the crystal children, the 12-strand DNAs, and our effort by surfing these waves of unity consciousness to activate our 97% of inactive DNA, which is the surprise kicker that the 1,000-strong secret government and their zombie army, that's what they didn't expect. So the chemtrails, the controllers of HARP are intentionally attempting to block out with a HARP chemtrail plasma weapon. They're attempting to block our upper chakra access, because our antennas go way up into other dimensions. There's a thin cord that goes way up from each of us into higher dimensions, and that's how we access the waves of unity consciousness coming from the interdimensional portals at the core of our galaxy or at the core of the universe. And the intent of the HARP plasma weapon system is also to block our ability to access those waves of unity consciousness. And that's why it's really important to meditate, and be really conscious of the fact that there is a force attempting to block our ability to access unity, divine consciousness. That's the spiritual warfare that's happening on the planet. And to spread this to our fellows and to let them know what's going on. Next slide. Okay, so what are some of the planetary assault applications of HARP? Let's see how they've used it in this script to make us afraid, to make nature our enemy, to make planet Earth the ultimate weapon of war, to make it the end times. Next slide. HARP, they've actually made it into a space-based weapon of mass destruction, so that the death toll of environmental warfare attacks, where HARP is used as a scalar weapon, a tectonic weapon, or a weather warfare weapon, is on the scale of the Hiroshima nuclear bombing. That's the observatory at Hiroshima before and after the A-bomb. Next slide. The death toll in Hiroshima was about 140,000. The death toll in the HARP May 3rd and May 13th HARP-triggered environmental warfare events was about 215,000 people. So that shows you, boom, it's the same thing. You drop an A-bomb, you, boom, drop a HARP bomb. Almost, 1.5 the damage. Next slide. In the HARP-triggered, incidentally, if you want the details on any of these events, go to peaceinspace.org, and there are individual articles and programs on each of these events and why they were HARP-triggered events and not just natural occurrences. The HARP-triggered December 26, 2004 earthquake and tsunami, between 227,000 and 280,000 persons died. That is a weapon of mass destruction. That was Christianity versus Islam. Next slide. In the Myanmar cyclone, it was about 146,000 of May 3rd, 2008. Next slide. In the China earthquake the next weekend of May 12th, 2008, the death toll was 70,000, and 11 million people were left homeless. We call that the Olympic. They do earthquakes right before the Olympics. The Vancouver Olympic earthquake was the Haiti earthquake. We'll get that to that in a moment. Let's go back a slide. Okay, the Myanmar cyclone. This happened on a Saturday, May 3rd. Myanmar. Sorry? Burma? Is that what you said? Yeah, Myanmar, Burma. Okay. I can't remember her name. Remember the Burmese activist, Syun Shik? What's her name? Yeah, Shu Ching. Okay. On Friday, May 2nd, George W. Bush, President of the United States, and Stephen Harper, Prime Minister of Canada, both Illuminati assets, made Suu Kyi, the woman of Burma, they made her an honorary citizen of Canada, the third in Canada's history. The second was the Dalai Lama. And Bush gave her the Congressional Gold Medal. On the 3rd, the cyclone happened. The U.S. made the cyclone happen. On Monday, the Secretary General of the United States, of the United Nations, Monday, May 5th, the Secretary General of the United Nations cleared his schedule at 3 p.m. and had a private meeting with one private individual named Henry Kissinger. Does anyone see a pattern there? In other words, you do plausible deniability by giving the Burmese patriot honorary citizenship and a Congressional Gold Medal on Friday. 5 minutes? Holy baloney. Okay. Anyway, you get the point. Okay. Now let's just go to the end of the presentation, to the last 2 slides, if that's possible. All of this is going to show that the Fukushima earthquake was actually a nuclear war against North America and the Northern Hemisphere, and that California, the Northwest U.S., Canada, and Mexico are under as high radiation as Japan now, and that it was all designed. It was a HAARP earthquake, and that it was all set up to have those 6 units blow, and to have 6 Chernobyls. It's actually 1,000 Chernobyls into the atmosphere. Could we go one prior to this? Yeah. How can we stop this? Number one, we can enforce the Environmental Modification Convention. This is actually the treaty that the U.S. and Russia passed at the same time that they implemented their secret weapon. Okay? So this is why we the people have to rise up and transform the planet, and why we will have a unique opportunity coming up between now and 2016 and in that region to take power back. And we have the legal instruments in place. This makes HAARP and chemtrails illegal. Okay? I just want you to know that. It's all in place. All we have to do is that the outlaws have command of the spaceship, and we have to get it back. Okay? So it's as simple as that. They're rogues, they're beyond the law, and there are only 2,000 of them in the central core. Okay? Next slide. We can start something called a legal class action. You can do it here in the United States. The United States has the best laws for it on the planet. You can do it on the state-by-state basis. And that's how they stop you can do it, for example, against the tobacco industry. And once you have large numbers of people, it's hard to quash those lawsuits. And at the state level, you get larger rewards. So that's something that if people want to get enrolled in finding a law firm to start a class action where we have large numbers of people, and there's money at the end, so everybody can understand that. Lots of money. Next. Okay, so anybody who wants to be interested in a class action, that's my email address, exopolitics@exopolitics.com. And thank you very much. Any questions?
Some sound? Yeah, here we go. Can we get a quick line here so I don't have to exclude anyone? Just come up, and if you'd like to ask a question, start up here.
Yeah, thank you, by the way.
Sure.
And are there places in the world that are not affected by chemtrails? Are they avoiding putting them over Washington, D.C., Rome, and London, or are they everywhere? And are there things that you can do to protect yourself from the plasma?
Yeah, those are very good questions. As to the first question, I was told by Clifford Carnicom, who's one of the more advanced scientists, that now the atmosphere has been transformed into a plasma worldwide, and that even though we see spraying over specific urban centers, that in his judgment, that's just to keep the plasma at a certain level. And the second area, as to toxic chemicals, are there things that we can do? The answer is yes. There are substances that we can take to flush and transform the toxic chemicals out. One of these is called Anu Water, ANUWATER. Laura Eisenhower knows about that. It's at anuwater.com. That's something that I take, and that changes the inner terrain, and it's specifically against. It can specifically defend against chemtrails. Yeah. Well, what you're doing is changing the inner terrain of the body and flushing out all of these toxics. All of these toxics. Yeah. And you know, there are many remedies, and that's one of them. If you're dealing with the threat of radiation, which is now a threat on the West Coast and in the Midwest, we know now from the Norwegian NILU data, the Norwegian atmosphere data, daily seaweed. I just had my daily dose of seaweed. I carry these packs around. I take about one of these a day. It's about a teaspoon of dried seaweed a day. I don't know. It's about a teaspoon. And drinking miso soup every day is also good. And we know that because after the Hiroshima bombing, there was one doctor whose patients survived, and that's because he told them to drink miso soup and eat seaweed. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Morgellons disease and the link between chemtrails.
Yeah.
And also the Norway spiral. Was that HARP?
Yeah,
related?
okay. With regard to Morgellons disease, I recommend that you go to carnicom.com, which is one of the more advanced sites that I've seen on Morgellons disease. The Morgellon process appears to be kind of the fundamental viral and bacteriological process. Before processes get into the bacterial or the viral form, they are in the Morgellons form. And so that is what they're throwing at the human race. Carnicom.com, that's Clifford Carnicom. Carnicom.com has a very, very full literature on Morgellons disease. And that is one of the more insidious effects of the biowarfare of chemtrails. And I think that there was a second part to your question. Yeah. There are a number of researchers who have argued, for example, that the spiral before the November 9th, 2009 Barack Obama Nobel Prize speech was in fact created by HARP in order to create a lot of hype around his Nobel Prize speech and to make it think that the angels and the extraterrestrials were backing him.
I think we have to cut off now.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
I just really want to express my appreciation, Michael, for this conference. Thank you.
Pleasure. And Alfred, I wanted to present you with our certificate of appreciation for